How's it going, guys? My name is Ted, and as we all know, phones are getting bigger. Every year, the Galaxy series of phones gets zero point 0.1 or zero point 0.2 inches larger. Even the iPhone jumped half an inch a couple years ago when they went from the iPhone 4S to the iPhone 5. And things like the Galaxy Note series are going from 5.3 to 5.7 inches in just a couple of years. And where can this all lead to? How much bigger can our phones get? And what type of display technology can we change to make our phones be larger but not any harder to hold? That's what I want to talk about in this video. I've got what I think is a great solution, and I want to go over that in this video. Many people will talk about how you can make a display that folds, or a display that bends, or a display that has some sort of a projector coming out, or a hologram, and those are all ways to make you get more screen content without having to increase the size of your phone, but they're not very practical. The most practical method that I could ever think of in many years of thinking and contemplating cell phones and technology, I thought of very recently, and that is, why not increase the aspect ratio of your phone from 16:9 on most modern cell phones to a 21:9. This will essentially make the phone the same width, so just as easy to hold in your hand, but it'll make it much taller. So even though you will have a much larger display, much more area on your screen, you're not having any more trouble holding it because it's still very easy to hold in your hand. It's still easier to make phone calls with because it's longer, so it reaches your mouth easier from your ear. But at the same time, you get more display area and more easy of a time to navigate your phone because of all that extra screen real estate. Now, the reason I suggest changing the aspect ratio over foldable displays or flexible displays is because it's been proven to work in the past. And let's take the iPhone for the best example I could think of, because the iPhones before iPhone 5, such as the 4, the 4S, and everyone before that, had a 3:2 aspect ratio, which means it was almost as tall as it was wide. And when the iPhone 5 came out, they did the same thing that I'm talking about. They made the phone taller, but they did not increase the width of it at all. So people could still hold the phone very easily in one hand, and any applications or any movies that were fit for that old iPhone scaled perfectly to the larger one, and just have these black letter boxes on the top and bottom of your display where the increase in screen size had come from. Also, if you go to TVs, the older TVs were a 3:4 aspect ratio. It was called VGA, or Video Graphics Array, and it was very low resolution, but it was more of a square. It was almost as tall as it was wide. And when the newer generation TVs came out, the HD TVs, which were all widescreen TVs, they became a 16:9 aspect ratio. But you could still watch old content because there were just black letter boxes on the side for any of the old content, and then the newer content would scale up to those larger sizes. Now, this is just the natural evolution, right? Because we've already got movies. Every modern movie these days is being filmed at a 21:9 aspect ratio, which is ultra widescreen. And when we watch them on our phones right now, that are all 16:9 aspect ratio, they all have letterboxes anyways. So this would improve content. It would make your screen larger but not wider, and it would make it so that we can continually evolve our cell phones without having any problems at all with application compatibility. So just like we saw on the iPhone 5 when they came up from the 4S, there was no problem with apps working on the iPhone 5, even though the display was a different aspect ratio, it was larger, a different resolution. It didn't matter because you just added those letter boxes to the top and bottom, and over time app developers made their apps fit for the larger display. This is why I believe that a 21:9 aspect ratio is the perfect solution for phones, because right now they're getting too wide to hold, but tallness really is not a factor in that, because it doesn't really matter how tall my phone is as long as I can still hold it in one hand. Now, there's one more aspect of these larger, taller displays that I'd like to talk about that is both an advantage and a disadvantage. One thing people might point out for the larger display, since it's a different aspect ratio, is that it's going to take more CPU to process, because you have to have a higher resolution to scale up that display. Instead of having a 1920 by 1080, which would be a 16:9 aspect ratio, you'd have to have a 2560 by 1080, which is a 21:9 aspect ratio. So although you have to have more pixels and a higher resolution, you also have more room in your phone, because with the taller phone, a taller display, you've got more actual room in your phone. So you can add additional hardware, additional power, additional battery to power that hardware, such as the CPU. And although it has a larger display, more pixels, I think in the long run it'll be an improvement both in the viewing experience, because you've got a larger display to look at, but also in the longevity of your phone, because you've got more area in your phone. The larger battery can power a more powerful CPU that can power that display. So it's so many positives but at the same time so many negatives. And that's really the main point of this, is that it's an easy technology to get accustomed to, because the apps can scale perfectly, videos will work better, your phone will be taller but not wider. It solves so many problems we have right now, and that's why I think this is a cool technology. I think it's a very beneficial technology, and that's why I love the idea of a larger aspect ratio on my phone as opposed to a larger display at the same 16:9 aspect ratio. It's a lot to take in. If you have any questions, I'm sure I didn't do the best job explaining it. I tried the best that I could. Leave any questions you have, or any comments or criticisms you have of this idea in the comment section below. I love reading them. It really is like the whole reason I make these videos. I want to hear back from y'all what y'all think on my ideas, because honestly, I don't have very many viewers. I love hearing everything you'll have to tell me. So thank you so much, guys, for watching. I appreciate your time. Let me know in the comment section below what your thoughts are on a 21:9 as opposed to a 16:9 aspect ratio are, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye.